Welcome to Esoteric Truth Radio, the show without fear. There is no topic forbidden to us as we delve into the realms where no one else will go. Join us while we touch upon the issues others won't discuss. We are Esoteric Truth Radio.
There is a worldwide problem on our earth being consumed by evil. We blame politicians, maniacs, demons, and more. But what happens when you learn that you are in fact the creator of all evil, and you do it with your mind? Egregores is in fact been in our world since the beginning, from the God that we created to the devil himself. Not that they are in fact realities in our sense of it, they cannot be touched or seen, but many of us are fully aware of their presence. And that is what this video is about. Illuminati, Masons, Christians, Muslims, Buddhists, and more are some of the largest parts of those evils. They are the largest contributors to the beings that consume us. That is not to say that all people are evil, but the fight between good and evil is alive and well on this planet, and it's mostly because of the thought forms that we create and give power to. We are taught as children that there is a good and an evil, that bad things happen to good people, that suffering is a sign of strength. But this is not the truth. But it is a thought. Think it long enough, and it will happen. Some of the most infamous egregores, or thought forms, are the boogeyman, Santa, the devil, God or gods. Though we know they don't exist in our form, we put belief in them that even in the subconscious they are real. They bring human emotion, happiness and fear, joy and tears. Karma is another way that shows that thought forms are in existence and it's due to us. We believe that if someone does us harm, they will in fact receive punishment in due time. The so-called freedom of choice is one of the biggest perpetrators in this. Here's a quote by Nietzsche. If what I do is not good, then who is left to correct me? If the world will not correct me, and I am pleased with what I do, and there is no longer a God to correct me, and I no longer feel shame about it, then what I do must be good. What has always confused me is how easily most can state who they think those in power worship. Of course, most assume something or someone evil. But can we honestly say who? If we ask someone in power and doing wrong if they worship the devil and they say no, does that mean it's a lie? Or does it mean that it's just not the being you asked about? If at one time there was a clear-cut understanding that there are good and evil thought forms, as most religious articles and texts claim, and there are billions on the planet who believe it, then who is to say that this is in fact correct? But those who rewrote it changed the players and not the game. If magic and prayer, thoughts and actions, ritual and symbols are very well known to be a part that is evil, why is it that those in power use and abuse it so much? Right in our faces we hold a state of confusion. Though we know what the term illumination means, we have allowed it to be used to describe a nefarious group. We know what the term Lucifer means, as it's not a secret, but yet we allow it to mentally mean something evil. We know what magic is and the power it holds, yet we praise magicians and see it as entertainment, while allowing the entertainment industry to show us symbols and even listen in a clear sound, chanting, and actual spells on television and movies. When 200 years ago, anyone doing this in public would have been killed. Churches chanting in large numbers and sound frequencies, and even the architecture of the buildings, allow us to be entranced while holding a man-made concept to be praised in the highest order. Ask yourself why we allow our children to praise Santa and the Tooth Fairy and give them the exact mental process as those of a god, with Santa Claus figurines and stories of fairies coming into their room at night and bartering their actual teeth for monetary gain. This is not because we live in a fucked up world. It's because we refuse to see what we can create, the power within ourselves, and how when we are in numbers, we change the world, not just physically, but metaphysically as well. We demonize those before us for doing something that later on we gave the power to just one, to one God, one being. All that resonated within us, we gave to one, and made sure there was no other way to harness that power unless we agreed the egregore would embrace us, guide us, and ultimately give us what we think we cannot give ourselves. Why do you think that those that are in religions fear being around others that don't believe? It is simply because they fear influence without ever thinking, no one can cause me to think otherwise, no matter what. This isn't just the individual, but religion as a whole all over the world. Ever wonder how an atheist is 100% sure they cannot be convinced? It's because there are a larger number of non-believers than believers, including those who claim to believe on the outside but not mentally. That even includes those who go out of habit or fear. People fear our world entering chaos. Those who pray are no longer praying for themselves. They are praying for things in the material world. Those things cannot be made into egregores, but those who produce them can. The 1% is not richer in money, they are richer in power. We praise their money, riches, wealth. We wish for their things, and we admire those who have more than us. This doesn't give you more things, this gives them more things. We are taught to understand the feelings and path of others, but that is to avoid walking our own. The term inner demons reflects this. These aren't outside demons, but our own egregores fighting the ones that we are taught to accept. The reason why some forms of magic, including ones that are considered satanic, are not, is because of the evil we are taught they represent. But it is in fact because those who practice it form egregores that they come to control. This is not to say that there is sometimes a backlash of egregores becoming powerful enough to in turn become the master over their own creator. In almost all religions and ancient texts, there is a story that tells us that those that have physically affected our world were spoken to in a dream state or in their head. This is in fact an egregore. With enough power, an egregore can in turn work with or against you. And this is why ritual magic or magic performed with a group has to be maintained in the purest way. The same as there is good, there is evil, the light and the dark. With that said, we also cannot have one without the other. Those who have contact with aliens, voices, including those diagnosed with medical conditions, shamans, psychics, and the like, are not nuts. They're just more sensitive than most when it comes to egregores. An example of those are leaders in churches, cults, and those who claim to speak for a being that most of us can't see. Of course, most of them are charlatans, but there are also those who do hear them, and those are the ones that we need to be aware of. By claiming that everyone fits under the same umbrella, makes this not only dangerous for them, but for us. The terms esoteric and occult, and eventually the stigma of it being evil, was held in secret, not because of what it does, but without the knowledge that comes with it, it can become dangerous, and this is why it needed to be a secret. Ultimately, those who raided and pillaged areas around the world, it wasn't for land, but for control of knowledge. Those of us who are consumed with magic and symbols that we are not aware of, and chanting and casting spells we know nothing of, what is never really spoken of is that those ancient spells and magic had 3 forms. One was egregore, the second servitor, and lastly, natural egregore. The difference between servitor and egregore is a servitor is made from one and works for one. An egregore is made by many and controlled by many. The more people and thoughts, the more power it is given. By power, I mean emotion, concentration, ideas, and most importantly, in our world, images and symbols. If you're ever curious if you worship an egregore, which works for many and sometimes cannot be controlled, or a servitor, which works for you have to realize and consider what they want or need. If it's for your possessions, such as money, like tithing, we all know Jesus and God have no need for cash. labor, or sacrifice. Again, the above. But if it's for healing yourself and requires your thoughts for self-healing or for courage or even love, and not of another, but for yourself, you can easily distinguish between the two. Now, knowing between these two, we also have the natural egregores. This is the most important of all. The natural egregore can be defined as any group of spiritual beings that occur naturally in the universe and work together for a common cause, and who share the same goal and purpose. Now, spiritual beings, which you should know by now, includes us, yes, humans, planetary spirits, dimensional spirits, and so forth. These egregores can actually choose us, in singular or large groups. For example, Santa would not be a natural egregore, but Jesus can be, not because he was real in the sense that some religions believe, but because he taught a spiritual message, even though this message was later tainted and misused to form another more sinister egregore. I've left out some things that I think can be misused by some, but the info is out there. There are things in this world that connect and disconnect us. But those who are in the know, those who are in power, and those that have turned our world into what it is today are terrified for us to find out even a third of what you heard here. Take your thoughts back. They are your true freedom of choice and your free will.